thank you, Talib Saab, for affording me the opportunity to speak today. I am honored to share my insights into the life of our founder president, the late Shahjehan S. Karim, whose absence today is a void no amount of remembrance can fill, but whose remembrance is a prayer that can fill many a heart with pride and joy. Delivering his speech at the last IoBM convocation that he attended on the 12th of December 2015, he said, and I quote, "What had started out as a vision to create a center of higher learning and business has blossomed into a formidable institution called IoBM, comprising 4 colleges that provide undergraduate and graduate level education to over 4,000 students. Already, more than 7,500 alumni of this institution have gone into the world and are either running their own businesses or occupying leadership positions in companies big and small, or are being counted as the new generation of managers in private and public sector organizations," unquote. I'm sure many of you have wondered, as I have from time to time, what does it take someone to become a visionary and an achiever like the late Shahjehan S. Karim? Born to a mother who by the standards of the time was liberated, and a father who was intrinsically scholarly, it is no surprise that his life was free from the shackles of conservatism and his soul spirited enough to allow him to venture out into the unknown with the confidence of a sage. While most school-going children would shy away from meeting their principal, Shahjehan Karim, when he was only 9, had no qualms about stepping into Father Moran's office at St. Xavier's College, nor did he think twice before going to see Khwaja Nazimuddin at the Grand Hotel in Patna, Bihar, when he was 16, to have the board examinations postponed because the Bihar riots were spreading fast. And stand he also did, while still a sophomore, beside his seniors at Aligarh University, to demand that the late Sir Ziauddin be interned next to the grave of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. When his parents sent him to study medicine, he did not relent. He wanted to give their hope a chance. But instead of wasting his life in the pursuit of a medical doctor's white coat that did not fit into his dreams, he took the advice of Stanley Morone, an American professor, and who had become his friend, to go to university in America instead. He traveled 15,400 kilometers, nearly 9,600 miles by plane, by ship, and by bus to arrive at the University of Arizona. What is impossible to leave out at this point is that he had also found the love of his life and married her before leaving for the US. At the University of Arizona, he became friends with Dr. Willis Brewer, the dean, close enough to have him invited to the dean's home for dinner more than once. So willing was his dean to help him that even though he started out as a pharmacy undergrad, he was allowed to finish with a degree in political science. He had a scholarship throughout his stay in UA, frozen though it was when he ventured out to Chicago with his Syrian-Mexican friend, Fernando Jacoman. His mission was to earn enough money over 6 weeks to meet his out-of-pocket expenses for a year. They both returned from Chicago in a brand new car they had bought from their savings. He became president of the International Students Club while in Tucson, and also joined PSAA, the Pakistan Students Association of America, and sat on its executive committee. Among the people he befriended at PSAA was Munir Ahmad Khan, who we now know as former chairman Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. Despite his extensive travels across the US with the ISC, PSAA, and on behalf of the university, not to forget his speaker sessions on Kashmir at schools around Tucson, and his surgery for appendicitis, he completed his studies on time, as he said, by taking full load in the summer. He declined the scholarship for his master's from the University of Wyoming, as he wanted to return home. But before leaving the US, his cousin Khalid, whom he met in San Francisco, convinced him to appear in the CSS entrance exam in London first. He traveled to London and appeared in the exam, but the education attaché at the embassy, whom we met to get some advice told him, "You do not have the background to qualify." He did not rush home after his exam, but became a tourist in London. A few days later, he traveled with a friend to Paris. In Paris, he boarded the Orient Express and traveled all the way to Istanbul. But he stopped en route for sightseeing at Venice and Athens. Apart from visiting the Temple of Zeus and the Parthenon in Athens, he partied with Chris Karanikas and other Greek friends before leaving for Istanbul. Arriving in Pakistan at the Public Service Commission in Karachi, he learned he had passed the entrance test but had missed the Ejaz Wasay there. His only chance was to get to Dhaka quickly, but he did not rush to Dhaka at all. Instead, he took a train to Lahore and onward to Patna, his ancestral home, to meet his wife, his parents, and his siblings first. Shortly after qualifying, he arrived at the Civil Services Academy in Lahore, where he met with a serious accident that Mr. Salim Jilani, present here, would be the best person to recount. Though bedridden at first and then physically restrained, he completed his training at the academy on time, thanks to Jeff Burgess, the principal. His friends and their families in Lahore stood by him and his wife Shama, who had come to Lahore with his parents on hearing about the accident, but decided to remain by his side when they left. During his civil service career lasting 37 years, at his postings in Sindh, perhaps his favorite province, Punjab, as well as federal capital, the late Shahjehan Karim served his country with distinction. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, as a politician and a senior minister in Ayub Khan's cabinet, wanted his commitment as a buddy bureaucrat to swim or swing with him. But he only did for his supposed benefactor what he thought was morally correct, no more. Bhutto perhaps respected him for that, and as Prime Minister later, did not come in his way when he wanted to take the UN Habitat job and go off to Kenya some years later. Handpicked by UN Under Secretary General Mustafa Tolba, he remained in Kenya for 8 years with his family. The UN job, as he modestly acknowledged, made it possible for his children to go to the best of schools and complete their education in the US. While with UN Habitat, he traveled across the world to get money from rich countries and organizations for development projects in poor countries. The largest sponsors he found for UN Habitat were the UAE Sheikh, who contributed $1 million, and Agha Hassan Abedi, the illustrious banker and creator of BCCI, who gave his agency $2 million. President Ayub Khan had thrown him out of Thatta when he refused to drop his son's murder case as SDM. The Nawab Kalabagh, governor of West Pakistan, impressed by his development work, offered to promote him and take him to Multan. He humbly turned down the offer, as he wanted not to go too far from his dear ones living in Karachi. But his refusal did not offend the governor, who only some time later stepped in to send him to Sialkot as DC when he learned he had been made an OSD by the incoming Nawaz Sharif government. Benazir Bhutto, during her first tenure, admired his adroitness and made him her press secretary and later Secretary Information. On her return to power in 1993, she made him Chief Secretary Sindh, only a year before his retirement was due, much to the chagrin of people around him. It just took 15 months for the late Shahjehan Karim's CBM to become a reality, thanks to his vision and dedication of the founding members of his FHE, the likes of Bashir Jan Muhammad Sahab, who's here, S.H. Hashmi, Abdul Razak Taba, and Justice Imam Ali Qazi, to name just a few. Everyone in his intimate circle lent him a helping hand and cheered him on as he put on his gloves for round 2 in his fight to make this world and his country, Pakistan, a better place for generations to come. But what must be said before I finish is that while living his dream, his extraordinary sense of responsibility and his immense love for his wife, his brothers and sisters, his own children, and their children remained an integral part of his story. He was more than just Bhaijan for his siblings, more than just daddy for his children. And among his grandchildren's generation, Mashal, Amr, Labhan, his wife Yusra, Aman, Zaid, Alize, and Ziyad. Every one of them for him was the apple of his eye. May the Almighty elevate his status in heaven. Ameen.